All right, all right, all right. Welcome, loyal listeners, to another episode of Agents Influence Podcast. Conversations with who? Cass Dog, Jason Cass. I'm here with you today with Paul Gaglioti. God, I just said it. What, Paul? I butchered your name already. Gaglioti,
my friend.
Gaglioti. No, and it's okay. The loyal listeners are actually surprised that I haven't done that in a long time. I'm actually notorious for that. But yours should be easy. It's the Italian name. I mean, we kind of know it. It's the name the Italians that built America. You know what I'm talking about? So, dude, I appreciate you coming on here. I'm very excited. I saw you a couple months ago online. Having some pretty good conversations. I like when I can see people comment on LinkedIn and I can kind of get a feel for if they get it or not. Seems like you get it, and I'm anxious to bring you to the forefront. The loyal listeners know the reason why I bring people like yourself on is because I want to expose you, your thoughts, your business, your mindset, your agenda, your goals. I like to expose that because what it does is it helps us relate to you, but it also helps us relate to InsurTechs. It helps us relate to our industry more. And I believe that that's what strengthens the fabric of the independent insurance agency system. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I really, really, truly do.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem whatsoever. I'm not going to go on with any advertises. You guys know about AI Mastermind. You guys know about, you keep in mind, I have no idea when this is coming out, but AI BrainShare has either open registration or it is closed because it's sold out. 200 people, keep that in mind. AIBrainShare.com. There, I did do an advertisement. Paul, welcome to Agents Influence, man. I really, really, really do appreciate you being on. I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks, man. Me as well. Appreciate the opportunity again.
So we have, so just so you guys know, we're going to get into it, but Paul used to be a retail agent, has a wholesale brokerage, also is heavily involved in InsurTech. And so he's well-rounded, right? And that's what the loyal listeners are really going after, Paul, is that they're trying to get more rounded. We're working in this cocoon, our agency, building our IRA and investment for the future. And it's people like yourself that we look out to and say, what's going on out there? So are you ready?
Let's do it, man.
You an iPhone or are you a Droid user?
I'm an iPhone guy.
Okay.
But I see the benefits of the Android personally. So, I don't know, I might switch. I was a little Android guy for a little while, but, I got brought into the iPhone fold. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Life is more simple, sometimes. It is. If you operate inside the Apple ecosystem, life is simple, right? Everything just works. But once you try to go outside that, it's hard. That's why I compare it to a captive agent. That is actually what iPhone is. iPhone is State Farm. Droid is the independent insurance agent. That's why I stake my claim in that, Paul. All right.
I mean, I like it. Look, that's good. I like that. So
a lot of truth, dude. A lot of truth there.
I might have to switch now. But you might be, or do you sell Android devices? You got like a Samsung contract?
I should. You know what? Dude, Paul, that is a great idea. I need to get Android, someone as a sponsor on. Oh,
big
thank you very
banner
much.
Behind you, dude. You know what I mean?
Got
the little green Android guy, like over your shoulder. I think it works.
Got this. I mean, yeah, I'm totally blowing it here. I need to do that. Do you love to win or do you hate to lose?
I mean, it's a really good question. I definitely hate to lose. So for sure, I would say that. Winning's kind of like whatever, but you always remember the losses, right? It's
damn right you do. Damn right you do it. It's just not in business. I mean, you forget those ladies that you lost when you were younger. You thought, man, I told mom that was the one, right? I mean, it's like that. It's like those clients, you get that client. It was like, that was the one. And so, yeah, I'm with you, man.
You can't trust someone who says they've never been there. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
Especially in sales, and the brokers know that better than anybody, it's a tough game out there. So I think insurance sales folks are the best in the world selling anything because we sell a product that has to be sold, right? It's not bought, right? So talk to a lot of folks about sales and that. And I think retail brokers have probably the hardest job. And I think that what ends up happening a lot of times, you hear from people, oh, my friend's a mortgage broker, my friend sells cars, they're the greatest salesperson. It's like, not really, right? Like everybody likes money. So like that's pretty easy to sell. And cars, like who doesn't want to drive a new car, right? You could take a terrible interest rate to drive off the lot on a car.
It's true.
So, you see our industry, a lot of folks just, are, I think, the
It's true.
best. And could always be better, right?
Hmm.
You're a practicing salesperson, right? You're like a practicing physician, practicing attorney. We are practicing insurance distribution folks.
80% of us are cream of the crop to the world. What we do, the services we provide. Loyal listeners, if you're new to the show, you can go to our YouTube channel. You can see a video I did that what does the world look like if there was no such thing as insurance? I came up with that last March. Actually, for all you loyal listeners, recording this on March 3rd. It was last March I did. And the reason what made me think about that, Paul, was COVID and the fact that there was no insurance product to assist businesses, to assist people. And I thought to myself, wow, people who don't like insurance, they can look at the world right now and realize this is what a world would look like without insurance. Sometimes I don't even think us insurance agents think about it like when a person is dropping a skyscraper that's 180 stories tall in New York. Without insurance, no one could do that. No one can take on that risk of dropping that and it falling on other 7 buildings and killing people. You know what I mean? But somebody came along and said, hey, we'll cover you if you pay us a little bit of money and we're going to inspect you and make sure you're safe. But think about that, Paul. People even insurance agents don't put that 2 and 2 together. And if you want to know what the world looks like without insurance, go back to last March, April, and May, and actually what we're still in. Because if we would have had business income for that, the insurance companies may have been bankrupt, but they probably would have been collecting a premium on that for years, like they do anything else. I don't know how we got off on that rant, but Paul.
I mean, I like it, man. I mean, I think that you're onto something with, that. I think that you start to think about what the balance and, to your point, the exchange of premium for coverage. It's a very complex mechanism we sell as well. But I always like to think of our industry going back to, what it originally was, right? Like the word risk comes from the Portuguese word risque, which was uncharted waters, right? And back
Love
when
that.
goods were coming over to the new world, right? You were bringing your grain, I was bringing my rice, and it was coming over from Europe to here, and I was like, listen, Jason, take half my rice, I'll take half your grain. You know what I mean? And look, someone's going to kill me if I don't show up because that's just how things were done back then, right? But like at
Mm-hmm.
least half the goods got there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start to think about that risk transfer mechanism. And I kind of always like to go back to that concept, kind of like with your example with the skyscraper. I think that insurance, right, is like the rudder of the ship that's the global economy, right? Without it, you do
Come
nothing.
on.
You can't build that
Can't.
building, can't get that mortgage, can't get that new car that the best salesman or salesperson tried to sell you, right? You can't do any of that.
That's
And
right.
it's just so incredibly important.
We don't look at it that way. That I think gives you worth in what you do. Makes you realize when you say you're helping people, you're literally helping the world operate. I know that sounds crazy, loyal listeners, but that's essentially what you're doing. Without you or me, we could not do it. And without beating it up, when you went back to history, because I love that, it all started in crowdfunding. And that's where I think insurance will end up. I think through blockchains and other things, I think it will end up back as it was before. Corporations got in the middle, realized they could make money off of it. The powers now are shifting back to the people. But you think about 300 years ago, Lloyd's of London, when those underwriters rich people used to sit inside of that bar or whatever they say it was, pub, and they would look at the ships that were going from England to South Africa, and they realized it had $20,000 worth of gold on it. Someone had to insure that. And someone would say, hey, for this much premium, I'll ensure that that's going to get there the best way. They used to call it coverage because they would cover up the cargo, right? So that it couldn't be seen by pirates and they could dictate those. They used to write the price underneath the name of the ship, known as an underwriter. So there's so much stuff. I didn't know the risk one, Paul. I like that. I'm going to add that to the repertoire of the story because it's up to me and you that we have to teach these the new ones, I'm still young myself, you're still young, but we're not new in the industry, okay, so that we're still going up. Paul, you kind of shook your head there that you weren't young, or were you saying that I'm not young?
On the dude.
Should I take this personally?
Yeah, I got the gray hairs. So I'm working my way up market. You know, you be a broker long enough, you know, it ages you a little bit. But no, you're so right though, right? Like, but the young folks, like I always joke around, like our industry, like, you know, you start figuring it out after 20 years, right? There's that much. It's such an unbelievable space to be in, right? That you could just be constantly learning. I can't imagine, other than, again, a doctor, a lawyer, you know what I mean? You know, what else is there that you could work for 20 years and just be a professor of some sort? Like, you're learning every day, you know? It's incredible.
You totally are. And the thing, you know, when you're talking about learning, I love how you said 20 years, because I've been saying that recently. And you know, I say this a lot, and loyal listeners, if you're like this, Paul, I want to get your thought. There come a point in time in business where you just kind of realize that, you're not perfect and you don't know everything, but you get it, right? You feel as if someone dropped you in the middle of New York with $100. I could probably get most of my money back in a year, because I just kind of understand the concept, not just insurance, but business and how to make a dollar, right? Does that make sense that you kind of felt that? And how old are you, Paul?
So I'm 35. And I've been doing this since I was 24. And I wish I was doing it earlier, frankly. But yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those industries or things like, you know, you have a license to print money when you can sell insurance products, right? Like, think about it. Like, the average independent agent, you have infinite inventory. You don't have to stock. It doesn't go bad, right? Doesn't ever go bad, right? The market, though, is evolving. So you have to be on top of how products shift and evolve. And that in itself is something very complex. But there's a lot of great trading partners in the space that can help you do that. That trading partner could be your carrier partner. That trading partner could be a good intermediary. But absolutely, I think it's one of those things, and I like that analogy. You're dropping on the street with $100. You know, I tell people, like, what other industry do you have that, like, you could go and sell a product that, I mean, you make, the largest deal, I've ever done, as a broker, I sold and I'm a PNC guy, but of course, insurance, right? It was an annuity. I sold a $3.6 million annuity, made $100,000. Like, what other industry are you in that you could go and do that, for an existing customer, no less, right? That was for a customer I was selling other stuff to. So very, very cool space. And I love it, and love to see younger folks get engaged, in the industry.
And get upset when they leave, because I know what they're leaving, and my heart cries a little bit every time they do. You don't hear them a lot, and especially with some of the things that are going on today with InsurTech, helping people understand the changing, evolving of the consumer, the podcasts that are happening, the other organizations, the free Facebook groups, the LinkedIn groups. Paul, so you're 24 when you started, so it was 11 years ago, pretty much. In 2010, man, when you were starting, you didn't have the help you have now.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry, and they have now. And in 2001, I didn't have the help. I didn't have guidance. I had old dudes like telling me to like do this and that. And I was like, all right, I know no different, so I'm going to do that. Man, they have so much today, so much. Dude, what?
Oh, please continue.
Dude, Paul, we're not even through the questions yet. This is crazy. This has never happened. Just shows how good this stuff is. You and I got a passion, and I love it. 2 things in life got you to where you are today, skill or luck. Which one would you say is the biggest factor for Paul?
Well, see, I believe that, luck is where, preparation meets opportunity, right? So I think that that's a combination factor. For me, just hard work, right? You unlock everything with time and, dedication. So that's kind of where timing matters though, right? Anybody that tells you timing doesn't matter, I would completely disagree with. But
timing matters a lot.
And I just say people helping, those old dudes that helped you, quite a few of them helped me, and some ladies as well. Although you never escalated her age, so I would never say that they were old. But you know what I mean? They were very helpful as well. In just kind of like believing and nurturing. And that's the one cool thing I have to say about our industry. You have these incredible people with this incredible experience. And the cool thing is, like, at this weird time in insurance, right? Like, we're at this inflection point of technology and, the industry evolving, right? And the evolution over the past 20 years, like those are the people that really kind of shaped the industry, in my opinion, right? Those that
Mm-hmm.
came before us, maybe 30 years, right? They did a lot of things. So I think it's just an incredible time in the space as well.
Yeah, here's the deal. We can look at our life the same way. I think this is one of the most incredible times to live in the history of human beings. Now, I know we have all this crazy stuff going on, but let's get serious here as the type of life we have and the first world problems, hashtag first world problems that we're actually griping about. And I think it's the same way inside our industry, right? Our industry seems like it's a lot, but there's a lot of great things going on. Let's keep going because you brought up so many good points. I want to get to them. Take us back to high school or college. Bring us forward to where you are now, how Paul got to where he is.
Yeah, parents made me get a job in high school. Basically hit this inflection point, got my paycheck, and I got paid more than I thought. And I was like, you guys overpaid me. And the dude's like, first of all, no one says that. He goes, second of all, like, let's look at your hours. And he goes, oh, you worked overtime. I'm like, what's overtime? As some teenager, no one explained to me that if you worked a certain amount of hours, they pay you more. Yeah, that was a good thing. And then I just always work. So I always just like to work. It's fun. I always like to make money. I did car detailing in summers in high school. Went to college, went to University of Arizona. Not much of a scholar. Good for laying by the pool, though. Did a lot of that. A lot of that. Made some.
You sound like all of us, dude.
Yeah. And then I had the opportunity to work for Merrill Lynch all through college. So I worked for Merrill Lynch in New York City. A couple cool roles. Some actually that obviously I believe a lot of things come full circle. Helped me today. Mapping technology apps for traders, seeing who did what, and then seeing who would use what tech stack. Was supposed to graduate in 2008. Not the best time to go to Wall Street. Did a victory lap, I like to say. Went hung out for another year. Started a small laundry dry cleaning business that failed in about 2 months. Good experience because it was $5,000, which at the time might as well have been $1 million to me. But in retrospect, that was a very good, cheap, right? Very cheap loss.
Lesson.
Right?
That's right. Very cheap lesson.
Yeah, right. Very cheap. And then was doing some stuff, lived on my roommate from college's couch in San Diego for a couple months, learned how to surf, didn't know what I was doing. Came back, worked in a family real estate business for a little bit. And my dad's like, we spent a lot of money on insurance. You should sell us our insurance. And I was like, all right, yeah. That sounds cool. Insurance is kind of like whatever, right? Like, I don't know why. Like, it's not, my friends don't think it's cool. They all work on Wall Street or doing cool stuff. And worked for a family friend, who had an agency, learned the business, and just fell in love with it pretty much
realized the cool stuff was happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What other industry, Jason, do you have where I get to learn about if you like a business, like learning about business, what I love to learn about businesses, there's nothing better. You learn about every type of business. We insure all sorts of stuff, right? So I learn how they make it, how they do it, their processes, right? I learned, holy cow, how do they sell that much of that product? Yeah. I would have never thought that. We have deals we've done, people have $100+ million in sales, right? And they're like little widgets that like are in your chair or whatever, right? That they sell for 2 cents that they're selling, billions of them, right? So It's incredible.
It is, man. It is incredible. It is incredible, dude. Yeah. Good stuff, dude. Good stuff. So then you went from there, into what was the first that you said it was a family's friend, agencies. And then I guess you were successful there. Are you still there, or when did you move out of there?
Oh, so basically after about 8 months, I realized that I was just going to do this on my own. So I was in the industry for 8 months. I started my retail brokerage out of the office in my parents' house in 2011.
Sweet.
It basically saved up all this money that I had made, and as a 24-year-old, I always tell people, you're living at home as a 24-year-old, right? Like today, I guess it's like cooler, but then trust me, I wanted to get the hell out of there, right? But I had no choice. I had no money. I had no whatever. I had this little office, and I just remember I'd bring people in, and they'd be like, "Oh, you have like a really nice house," and I'm like, yeah, thanks. You know what I mean? And like, meanwhile, like my parents are having coffee in the kitchen and I'm like ushering people through the side basically to this office, right? To go and like, to go and do it. And like,
that's a hustler, man. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, who's going to appoint a kid working out of the office of their parents' house? Progressive. And Progressive did. but basically I had no leads or anything. I didn't know how to do it. So, you can go through and for salespeople in our industry, and you're resourceful, if you're a broker, to your point we were kind of talking about earlier, you have infinite opportunity in front of you on your computer, infinite. Just how we met LinkedIn. These platforms, if you work them well, they are the road paved with gold, in my opinion, right? So basically, for those the listeners that handle trucking, they know about Safer. So Safer basically tells you what trucking company's insurance they have. So that tells you the insurance company, when it expires, how many trucks. So since nobody would appoint me, right, what ended up happening was I just went and made a list of every trucking company in New Jersey at the time where I lived, and I was making about 180 cold calls a day, every day, just
every day,
burning the phones every day,
killing
religiously.
It, though. You're making that many calls a day, dude. You're killing it. You're setting.
It's a numbers game. Because exactly, it's a numbers game. And then what I learned, my dad at the time was like, "All right, well, it's really hard for people to say no to you in person." So I was a door-to-door salesman. I would go with my deal pack. I'd go get a check from you. I had these little folders. I'll never forget. This guy goes, "Who made these folders?" And I'm like all proud of it. I'm like, "I did." He goes, "Never make another folder." He goes, "These are terrible." Like, I was like, all right, well, whatever. He bought the policy though. Okay. And it was like $30K or whatever it was in premium. But yeah, they were like, I was like, oh, cool. Like, cause like as an entrepreneur or startup, right? You do everything. You wear every hat.
Take pride in that, man. Take pride in it.
So yeah, so
don't ever make another folder.
Yeah, he goes, no, it was bad, but I never did. So I never ever did. I had someone else do it. But no, you learn about it, and so I was writing a lot of truckers and stuff, and I basically just identified a region. I bought online lead, so I got enough deal flow to like evolve, right? So eventually I moved out of my parents' house. So then I had an office in my little apartment in Hoboken, New Jersey. Right? So like I didn't have an office, right? But I had a desk, which was a lot to me. And then, in time that I got a sick office in Hoboken, viewing New York City. And I always looked at the city being like, I'm going to make the jump across that river. And I'm going to earn that, to get there.
Nice.
And then we did. We had a virtual office in Jersey City. I don't really count that because I never really went there. But and then that's it. And then now we have an office, right next to New York Stock Exchange, as where our headquarters is now. Nice. So yeah, it's been an exciting industry.
It is, dude. And I want to get to a little bit more of that, especially what you have there on your t-shirt. Harbor.AI. Agency intelligence is our AI. Artificial intelligence is yours. I'm telling them the real stuff. You're telling them the artificial intelligence. Just joking. It's part of the, I know it's terrible. I'm a dad. It's okay that I make bad jokes. So here's the deal, Paul. You said something that I want to go back to before I go on there. Okay. Never talked about this before on the podcast. Never really said it. Would you not agree that this is probably the greatest industry God ever created? Right?
Yeah, we serve every industry. What other industry truly serves every other? I don't know if there's an industry that serves every other industry.
And you get residual income.
Yeah, I mean,
you're with networks of people that you never thought that you would meet. And you're helping people on a daily basis. And you know things that other people don't know and will pay you good money to find it out. And they don't even want to remember it. They just need you to stay along. So in case they need to remember it at one time, you can remember them. And they'll pay you to do that. If this is the greatest industry in the world, you have to admire the leadership of it. When we look at the leadership, I think it's easy, as you said, because I agree with it, and I've talked about that before, that the golden road that's been laid by past insurance agency owners in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, wherever it could be, that gave Paul and I the opportunity today. But when we look about talking about if every agency is part of leading this greatest industry God ever created, I've been saying that for 7 years. If every agency is part of that, then the leadership of that agency is part of that. And I think we may make a mistake as to who the leader of the agencies are. I'm going to tell you right now that I think there's more women CSRs, lady CSRs in this industry by far than there are men. And we will all admit as agency owners or even head agents that CSRs are the ones that make the agency go around. We can go out there and sell all we want, but man, if we're not getting that residual income or we're not helping people or we don't have something that knowledge that other people don't, we're not going to get all those other things. And I think sometimes it's I think next month. Is it next month Women History Month, Jeremy?
This month.
This month. This month is Women History Month. Ironically enough, this is the way that it happens, right? On March 3rd. Because I think that there needs to be some respect given to that. I have a whole presentation, Paul, on women in insurance. I believe they're the most powerful thing coming forward. I believe in life that over the next 200 years, we will have more women presidents than we do men. I believe that there's that much of an elevation that's coming to women. And I think that one of their powers starts inside the insurance industry. And think about this. Women carry more trust than men do. It could change our industry for the better, right? It could lead by. Think of who we are as a society and what our clients and prospects are expecting from us. Caring, sharing, multitasking, being understanding. Those are women traits, characteristics. Those aren't strong men traits. Not saying that, Paul, you and I got it, but not everybody else. And so the thing is, dude, you got to really start thinking about that. We really have to. And when we look at agencies being involved in the greatness of this industry, we have to look at who really truly runs those agencies. Because I have to admit, my staff makes fun of me all the time. I used to be the guy they asked all the questions to. Now they don't even ask me questions anymore because they know I don't know, right? Because I'm doing other things in the business. But as far as how we're making this residual income, I can point to nothing but women. That's a big factor if you really think about that. Paul, before we go on, you got anything to say about that?
I would think the folks that are the backbone of the agency, to your point, are those that are doing the unsung heroes, right, or heroines, right, in that example. And I think that you sometimes, like for us with what we do, our goal as a tech-enabled digital wholesale intermediary, that's who I want to talk to. No offense to you, Jason, but I want to talk to the CSRs and the marketing reps, right? That's my customer, right? Because when those folks need to find something, the broker, the producer, the agent, whatever that particular role is, they're there to go and bring it in, right? Those are the folks on the other side, you know what I mean, that are the ones that are actually putting the deal together, you know what I mean, making it make sense, and identifying the finer points. So I completely agree. And I think that you're seeing a shift, right, in general of just the view of work and how work looks. And I think that you're going to see a lot more, all sorts of just, different backgrounds and, cultures and, everything coming in together. And it's a really good thing. And then I think it's, very interesting, a lot of how I think our industry is actually evolving faster than others in financial services, right? Which is interesting because of the nature of how our industry is structured, right? So it's very, very cool to see the change. And I definitely certainly would agree with, with the stuff you're saying there, that the skill sets of, certain people are going to be, well suited to handle those different roles.
And you can say whatever you want about what Jason says, but Jason says the truth and it's the real deal. There's a huge account over here, $100,000 account, say. Cash tries to get in there and Susan tries to get in there.
You're gonna
just
lose.
Numbers game. Susan's going to get in there a lot more times than Cass is going to get in there. I mean, and we can take away vanity. We're not just talking about because they look good and they're in a skirt. That's old school shit. I'm talking about they what I just said before, and I'll quit beating it up. They have the characteristics that jive with the way our communities conversate and the way that they communicate, and they just have that knack for being that trusting figure. So, anyways, we'll move on there. I just had to say that because that was something I feel very passionate about. Loyal listeners, in the next 200 years, there will be more women presidents than there are men. Harbor.AI. Tell me what that is, Paul.
Sure. Yeah. So, we're a digital intermediary. We work with retail brokers to help them get access to products in the most efficient way possible. We do that by working with carriers. We are currently commercial lines focused, but we're working on, going to be adding some personal stuff probably sometime later this year, early next year. So we have a technology platform that automates, the quoting, binding, issuance process for not only admitted, but mostly E&S products. So we have several MGA contracts and, delegated authority for things like surety bonds. And, we work with carriers to help them just streamline the process. You run an agency, the way we quote insurance is beyond archaic. And when you get into like a form, right? We talk about forms, and a form is something that has structure you put in a typewriter. That's the Merriam-Webster. That's a form, right? Because why? Like, it's an old
Makes
thing,
sense.
right? Because and then when you get into some of these industry forms, right, that are the standard or whatever, they make sense. But we'll go back to your cell phone example, your Android or iPhone, right? We always tell people, and I'll adjust it for you, Jason, right? You know what I mean? Like, what people are running today, they're running a Motorola Razor, and I'm going to give them that 6 Samsung Galaxy, right?
There
You
you
know what I mean?
go.
So we have that, but a lot of times, right, folks are nervous to adopt new things, right, because it's
Yeah,
different. And so for us, we make it really easy. Our app's totally free to retailers. It will always be free to a retail broker. We will never charge a retail broker, a SaaS fee for what we do. Now, they're down the road, we might have features and stuff that we add in that might have something. But as far as getting access to product using our platform, will never be there will never be a charge for that to a retail broker. We believe
that's
that a
good
retail
stuff.
broker should have access to products. So we streamline that with structured data. We then connect to, I think at the moment, 25 or so different commercial lines API rating tools. We have all these MGA contracts. We could quote thousands of businesses straight through for many lines of business.
So whenever I go through you, am I going, okay, so I go through Harbor.AI, you guys place my business with Scottsdale, right? Let's just say you place it with Scottsdale. Am I dealing with Harbor to do endorsements and stuff, or is there a different process for that, or am I going through another broker that used your technology? I just want to be clear there.
Yeah, sure. So it depends on the appointment process, right? So there's certain products where Jason, the agent, if he's appointed with that carrier, he gets access to his product within our app. Full
Gotcha.
commission, full
Gotcha.
payouts, all that stuff. Um, at the end of the day, for us, you know what I mean? What we look to do is provide Jason access to stuff that he has in one cohesive environment, again, for free. In addition to stuff that he needs access to, right? That doesn't fit his go-to markets. Because look, we all know retail brokers, any broker goes to where they're appointed, better payouts, better relationship. The list goes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, it's more of an admitted product. We trade a lot in the E&S space, so that's a specialty coverage, and we allow single risk selection. So, most of the cases now, it would be through Harbor.AI LLC, or your wholesale broker. It's licensed nationwide. But there are other products that would travel through other intermediaries, right? We have a lot of products that are being put on our platform by other MGAs. We have a sick pet insurance product coming out there. So from a
Sweet, dude.
fellow Arizona Wildcat, he's got an awesome product coming out. So we'll be having that, shortly
So
as
what's
well.
the
So,
app? You said it, the retail agent will always have the app. Like I can submit business on the app?
oh yeah, so you can submit business, you can embed the experience. We have what we believe to be the world's first Amazon powered search experience for commercial insurance. It's awesome. It links all the products. You know what I mean? You have your own little storefront if you want to. And again, what we want to do, right, is help the agent a couple ways. So like, look, go back to that CSR that we just talked about, right? The backbone of the agency,
Mm-hmm.
right? They need help doing a lot of things. And the problem is, coming from the retail side, and I know you've lived this, Jason, and everybody who has is broke. You talk to an insured, and sometimes they want something because they're told they should want that thing, not because they actually need that product. They
True
need a
that.
different
True that.
product, and
Mm-hmm.
you're in a weird spot as that critical advisor to their business, right? Because if they need professional, but they were told should get GL, but actually the contract says they need both, right? When you think about that, those products have like an 80% overlap of information, right? If I could write your management consultant's miscellaneous professional, I could write their GL, right? I pretty much know everything to write that, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we tell people, everybody else in the space takes a submission and sends it to the market. We do not do that. We take data to create a submission. Why that's important? Because I can take that data and I can map it to all the other lines. So with Harbor, what you're going to see is you're going to get a cross-sold product automatically. So basically, that tool for that broker is invaluable. because now that CSR is punching in that information one time. A big trade-off the carriers do, not trade-off, it's beneficial to them because it lowers their expense ratio by working with us, is that we don't use their supplementals. We don't use other forms. We have 20,000 dynamically tied supplemental underwriting questions, and that number floats up and down, right? Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. And what ends up happening is we map all the carriers into our standard. So we've standardized commercial lines insurance. So then a broker doesn't have to worry about, well, I gave them the Markel app, but Travelers wants their app. And oh, by the way, there's this nuanced question that kills the deal. Eliminate all of that. We use semantically related information, data, how it all interrelates to go ahead and solve that problem.
So we have something similar, and I don't want to give them names. We use them, and their commercial line seems very similar to what you are doing, but they were doing it 5-6 years ago, and they're not using AI. Okay, so I don't want to say it's like similar to what you're doing, but what it allows them to do is it allows us as agents to reach out to them who's a broker, and they've created this software, and they've hooked up with Hiscox and a bunch of them that all of them are kind of hooked up with, to where I can submit the business, or my client can submit the business, bind, pay, and everything. And it's really nice, and we get paid like 10 to 12% commission, and most of the time we don't even know who the client is, and it's really kind of nice. Is that something that you guys are doing? Is that similar? But yet not only are you creating that experience, you're just making the experience easier to work with for the agent. Am I wrong or right about that, Paul?
Yeah, exactly. We focus more on E&S and specialty, right? So the stuff
that's what this broker does.
Yeah, so we do one-off risk selection, right? So a lot of the stuff we do with certain carriers is completely bespoke, right? So these are medical devices. These are very sophisticated contractors. These are easy stuff as well. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, you put that experience together for them to allow those folks to trade as efficiently as possible. Very, very similar. For us, the big differentiating factor with how we do things is our technology. We don't use AI for any rating, anything, because that's a big regulatory no. You can't do that, nor would we ever want to. But what we do use it for is to actually represent information. So what I would just tell people is like the very simple example to think about is like, you as a broker do certain things, right? Prospect and insure, get a quote, bind a policy, right? Within our app, all of those have meaning. So bind a policy means something. There's contextual reason why you would do that. And then when you get into the underwriting process, carriers are coming to us to help them with certain things. What ends up happening is by streamlining that directional information exchange, what we're able to do is provide a really robust experience. And the unique thing about us is that the information, once it's there, right, can move to different product lines, right? Yeah. So you don't, because our goal with the broker is you have enough going on, right? Let us just help you solve this piece, I call it the 0 to 1 of a quote. Like, let us get the data onboarded, structured, et cetera, and then you can go through and do that. But yeah, there's a lot of things that are very, very similar in structure as far as like they get quotes and stuff like that. Our real unique thing, and if anybody here, I know a lot of retail brokers follow your podcast, but my business partner will be speaking at the Wholesale Insurance Association, convention in a couple weeks on AI and how we use it, with a couple folks. And he really, like, on the insurance side, he's an insurance guy now. We brought him over to the dark side, I say, but he was a data scientist out of Princeton, and he mapped the human genome. So our technology actually comes out of drug discovery.
Kind of knows what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, he's helped many carriers. So the interesting thing about us is a lot of our help on the carrier side, we've helped them with products that other people are using or will use, right? So other digital platforms, but see, we're very collaborative, right? So for us, like apps like Semsi, like Philippe's a genius. I love him. We're going to be working with them. Like, we're very collaborative in how we work because we look to focus on specialty lines, right? So other folks who are really good at things, like, I've talked to the folks at like Tarmika, the guys at Glovebox, they're crushing, right? So there's a lot of folks out there with doing some really unique stuff that we're able to help them with. And that's kind of how we see insurance, right? It's a collaboration. So like, these vendors in InsurTech that do
Good
incredible
stuff.
third-party data, photo
Good
inspections,
stuff.
we just connect to those folks.
Dude, that's good stuff. No, that's really good stuff. I see your guys' path. I see the way that you guys are going with this, which is pretty killer, dude. Pretty killer. Now the one thing that I wanna kind of stipulate here, and I do want to make sure that we talk about this is, first of all, I want you to know that you're gonna need to reach out to my agency, because this other firm that we're using, I think you could fill their void, plus you can give us a lot more. And that's really, really big to us, because we don't like to do brokerage business. It's probably less than 5% of what we do. But when we do it, we want it to be simple and easy. And I just have to tell you, one of the easiest jobs to take in this industry is a broker at a wholesale agency. I mean, I'm just telling you, Paul, they're absolutely terrible. There's none that I've ran into. And what I mean by that is they take their turnstile. They take the information and they give it to this person. Sometimes the information they ask me for, I'm thinking, you're making 5% and a $500 policy fee on this thing. Why don't you help me look that shit up? I just went to New York's website and pulled it up real quick, and it's like, and we kind of learned that you ask them questions. Hey, what about this? They have no insurance knowledge, or they're too scared to ask. So they got to go to the underwriter, and it's like, my gosh, this becomes a hassle. And I would love to be able to, once again, just did a working with a broker, and we went with the Travelers Management organization plan rather than the other one that was being offered by some other company. And they said, okay, yeah, you can do that. Now you need to fill out all these apps. And I'm like, Jesus, we just filled out all these damn apps. And it's like, can you not go take some of the information I put on all those other four and put them on this app? And not only can you do that, but like, even if you can't do it through AI or whatever, I want to tell the broker I'm dealing with, like, you do it. Like, I filled all these out. You know what I mean? And anyways, that's so frustrating. And I think a lot of wholesalers miss out because of that. I also know that wholesalers are trying to quit paying commission because they're trying to pay sometimes salary to those brokers in there. They're trying to do everything they can to find somebody more motivated. But I'm going to use a broad brushstroke. All you wholesalers out there may hate me. Majority of wholesalers I know out there were once agents, and then they go to the wholesale side. I can't say everybody's that way, but a lot of them are. And Paul, I'm just kind of stuck up when it comes to this, okay? And what I mean by that is that when I see somebody in the insurance business for 5 to 10 years and then they leave and they go do something else, and they were an agent and they go do something else, it tells me they probably couldn't make it. I mean, they probably made it for a while. The agency was paying them some cash, so they were able to go. They popped a couple big ones. And the reason I say that is man, outside of 4 or 5 different excuses that are legitimate, what the hell would you leave this industry for if you know how to sell, right? So it kind of goes back to that. And I think wholesale brokers are kind of stuck sometimes in that. So there's a lot of people that are mad at me, and you can give me Jason at agency-intelligence.com and tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, Paul?
I mean, I think that, the insurance industry, is a microcosm kind of for like the world almost, like, a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And wholesale
True.
broking, there's been a ton of consolidation, right? Like a ton. And, when you get into a lot of these organizations, there's like 5 wholesalers left, right? I mean, there's hundreds, but like really like, there's like the big,
Right.
handful, right? And I think that, the process is what's broken. That's what we change, right? And that's why, like, when carriers work
well
with us,
said.
the process is broken. So it's not as much the people as the process. The process is not kept up with the times, right? And there's a lot of reasons why, but a lot of it comes down to like, I always tell people, with a lot of things we do that's a lot different than a lot of other folks is like with our tech stack, why we're always free to the retail broker and we'll always be free to the retail broker is because their business. I ran a retail brokerage. It's so expensive to run an insurance brokerage. Yeah, at scale, you get economies, right? And it's not that bad. But like, listen, as the guy that worked at his parents' house that dreamed of having an office, like I'm telling you, it's not that easy, right? Yeah. And, on the wholesale side, it's you get into the legacy tech providers and you get into just kind of what that procedural issue is. And the other issue, right, is that with us, we're tech first. So if a carrier were to work with us, we're going digital with you. If you don't want to go digital with me, I can't help you
Not
because,
working.
yeah, it's just not the way the deal trades out. And I think to your point, those questions, the apps, the supplementals, that when we were building our app, and I could tell you, man, I've stacks of supplementals, a mile high, looking through and seeing, okay, how does this, what's a structure, right? And what you start to begin to realize is that, to do true single risk selection, what we do to solve the problem you just described, because it is a pain in the neck and no one wants to deal with it, is that you have to get the carriers on board to do that. And they have to be able to willing to forego the way they do it currently. And that's been really our real way of onboarding products in a very efficient manner. I think you will see, there are great brokers, but you have to look at, I think, the way wholesale broking structured in the context of, well, like if you're a small tier agent who we cater to, that's who I want, frankly. So any of your listeners, they're a smaller agent, they're a startup agent, less than a couple million in rev. You call me, you get my cell phone number, they're my contracts. I'll be the best broker you've ever had. The reason why is because I know what it is to be a retailer, right? Every deal's a deal, but it's not, but it is, right? Because you never listen, and I know you've lived this, Jason. The ones you don't think you're going to close, you close. The ones you thought you had locked up, you don't lock up.
What's up with that, bro? I was just talking about that 3 or 4 podcasts ago about how I always do, and I got a lot of feedback on that. The ones that I always think I'm going to close, I never do, and the ones that I never do, I think I close. It's really freaking weird.
Yeah,
hey, dude, and that's another thing that I like. And loyal listeners, pay attention to what he's like. You guys like me. You like David Carruthers. You like Ryan Hanley. You know why? Because we're all insurance agents working inside of retail agencies. He's working in a broker, but he had the retail agent. I can really feel that sometimes. Paul, sometimes people try to bullshit us. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, he's still this retail agent. And they say like 2 or 3 things, and the loyal listeners and me are just kind of sitting here like, dude, that's not realistic.
Here's what I'll tell you, Jason. Here's what I tell you. So I tell anybody, here's the biggest problem in broking, okay? You go to sell a deal to a guy for 50 G's, right? You, the retailer, okay? Your wholesaler tells you how good of a deal is. Meanwhile, that guy doesn't want to pay $1,000. Okay, you got to figure out how to show him he's got to pay 50. And I tell people that. I tell my carriers that. I go, listen, I know this is priced great. I know this is a good product, but no matter what it is, that insured does not want to pay this number. If I told him it was $1,000, even though it should have been 50, he should have said it been $100, right? So what I tell people is you have to put yourself in the position of that broker. When we developed what we've done, it's for brokers. So again, it will always be free, and it's a big thing to me. You know what I mean? A big, big thing to me that a retailer will never pay for our tech stack, because at the end of the day, that knowing how to do a deal, Jason, that's art. That's beauty. That's magic, right? You bottle that, sell that, right? Like as a broker, you talk, I've talked to Ryan, brilliant guy. Like people you're naming are just very, very smart guys. What you realize is, to your point, there are a lot of really good, I will say, wholesale brokers and intermediaries. You just have to look at the way they chase game versus the way we, or I used to as a retailer, chase game. It's different, right? Because they're hunting for buffaloes, but we're cool with the squirrels. So at the end of the day, you have to kind of see that. And I learned that from a buddy of mine who'd been also a broker for a very long time. And I'd go to him, I'd get a deal. And this was, to your point, the crux of the issue was the broker he worked at. Well, he couldn't work at deals that made it less than 500 in rev to the, $500 in rev. And as a startup guy, well, that's all stuff I was working on, right? And of course, I wanted to write the 100K policies, but I'm looking at little 2G, 3G, and premium deals.
Trying to pay the car payment next month.
Exactly, right? You realize, right? Like, okay, well, he can't do it, so here's what ended up happening. I would get deals that I didn't know how they'd be priced out that would be 20, 30K in premium, right? Because I just didn't know that that's what that would cost. And then he never got to look at those deals, unfortunately, because I was never sending him those. I was sending them somewhere else, okay? And then they were doing all the little stuff, and then what ended up happening, I got a big one, and they wrote the big one. And that's why for us, we tell people, like, our lowest product, we have some admitted stuff too, I think it starts at like $60, right? So it's like, we have, like home-based business products, admitted BOPs and stuff that are digital only, and then they go all the way up you know what I mean, to, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah,
Wow.
I agree with you on that. The component of a lot of the stuff you're saying obviously resonates with me, but just so that your loyal followers and listeners know, like when I have conversations with carriers, these are things I'm saying, and that's why we do everything
That's
form
good.
based in our app. It's all on a form basis, which means that if you get a quote from carrier A, B, and C, right, and they're different, and one's 20 G's, 50 and 80, right, at least you, the broker, have the context of the why, right? Okay, well,
That's right.
this,
I like that.
you're outside Chicago, right? Cook County's an issue for contracting, right? So okay, well, it's got an exclusion for that, or you got this. So you start to see that, right? And then we want to just give that, I always use the analogy of baking cakes, right? Like who makes the recipe, who sources the ingredients, and who's the actual baker, right? And a
Gotcha.
lot of correlations to insurance for that. But
I
yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
look, I would tell you though that the wholesaling is getting better because there's younger folks getting into it. But to your point, the comp structure issue, it's challenging, right? You know what I
Hmm.
mean, for a lot of the more traditional folks. And the other thing is too, if you keep growing by acquisition, not organically, you don't actually solve a lot of times the actual problems, right? Which
That's
is
right.
again how the deals are done. Because listen, join your comment, Jason. Some of these older folks that helped guys like us, they're doing these deals on napkins. Some may
That's right.
still,
Still.
right?
Still.
Still. So
And and here's the hope for the independent insurance agent, the young agent, is people like yourself out here at the .AIs, is because back when I was doing this in '05, '06, '07, I didn't have another option besides the brokerage that I was using, and I hated it, and the apps and the supplementals. And when I go to my agency owner, he'd just say, "Shut up, you just use what it is." Well, it wasn't being a jerk. It's just that there wasn't anything else out there. Think of this, young agents out there today. You're trying to provide value for your agency. Go to your agency owner, go to your sales manager, and say, "Hey, do we like dealing with our brokers? Are our brokers really good to deal with, or is it just a frustrating thing? It's a necessary evil." If they say necessary evil, which there's probably about an 80 to 90% chance they will, this is a way for you to provide value. Hey, I was listening to this podcast. Hey, I went out and searched this guy, Paul, on his LinkedIn, and this is what I'm finding out, and this is what he's saying. Could we at least have a call? And I think that's a huge value that I could have never provided my agency owner back then because we didn't have those options. So that's something that's really, really important. Paul, wrapping this up because we have been hitting hard. Wrapping this up, anything last thing you want to say to the loyal listeners?
No, I mean, look, I appreciate the opportunity, and I kind of like leave you with this one there, Jason. So I sat down with CEO of a multi-billion-dollar E&S carrier, and they're a brilliant company, like rocket ship company, right? He founded it. It's a public company, and I asked him, "Can I ask you a question?" He goes, "Yeah, of course." I go, "Why is there so much contention in our industry, right? Like, why do the carriers, the brokers, like, why is everybody not like on the same team?" And he just started laughing. He goes, the retailer, you know what I mean, deserves to get compensated very well because they provide such an incredibly important thing to us, right? Deal flow. And they do the hard work, right? And what I tell anybody is, the retailer is the backbone of the industry. Without that, there's no carrier because no one's selling the stuff. And to your point, leaving you with kind of like, I believe this industry comes full circle, right? All of this tech, right? The original InsurTech was that piece of chalk at the Lloyd's coffee shop or bar or whatever it was. And now you have
Mm-hmm.
AI-based API platforms and rating tools and whatnot. And I tell any agent, with me, you find me on LinkedIn. I have a thing that this is my new thing for 2021. Anybody I add on LinkedIn or talk to, I take 15 minutes to talk to. If you don't want to talk to me, I delete you. I've done it multiple times this week, actually. I will
I
give
like it.
you my time. This is for networking. Anybody I can help, you feel free to reach out. I know you're on the Insurance Nerd Slack, so we're all on
Mm-hmm.
all these channels. Like they're there. Look, I hired a guy from there, 22-year-old guy out of risk management school at Georgia, right from there. So my
Great.
point is, those people listening, like the opportunities are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Go after it. You find me, you add me. I'm taking 15 minutes of your time, though. I will tell you that. Or so, like, don't bother if you don't want to give me your time because it's our most valuable asset. And I do appreciate that, Jason. You know what I mean? You giving me yours.
I appreciate it, dude. And this has been so So valuable. Even though you talked about your company for a while, it's important because a lot of times it's, hey, look at us, here's the value we provide, but you're something that we're all dealing with every day, and it resonated very, very true. So leaders are readers and readers are leaders, and you are a leader, so I know you must be a reader. What are you reading right now, Paul?
Yeah, I'm rereading Art of War. Actually,
Ooh,
a very extended, but it's like a very thick Art of War right now.
that's
So
good
yeah,
stuff
that's
though,
what I'm
dude.
back on. I like to reread certain things. I would tell anybody listening to this, my favorite book, though, probably I would say is 48 Laws of Power. That's
I've never heard of that one.
incredible. Oh
Okay.
yeah, that's a really, really good book. I hope it's 48 if I screw up on the number of them, but I'm pretty
Right.
sure it's 40. But yeah, that's it's like talks about a lot of just different a lot of philosophical related stuff. How about yourself, man? What's on
People.
Jason's
Well, thank
nightstand?
you. But my most important book that I read every year in January, I would say in the last 15, 16 years, I've probably missed it a couple times, is 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And the reason why I like laws, that's why when you said the 48 out of power or 48 laws of power, whatever it was, is that I like laws because I say this a lot. People laugh, but it's the truth. If you know laws, you can predict the future. As a leader, if I know the way human nature works and I know certain leadership styles will produce these results, well, then I can predict the future. But I have to figure out those leadership styles and create that culture. And I think that that's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. That's where it starts. So I'm going to get that one there on the power. I think that that's awesome. Now, I don't know who it is. I don't know who your boo is. Maybe you're watching Hulu. Maybe you spend your time on Netflix. Maybe it's Amazon Prime. When you go home at night and you're trying to relax, out, what do you watch on TV?
My girlfriend's big on investigation discovery, unfortunately. So
That's a
that's
good one.
typically, as a good boyfriend, I just, kind of just whatever she wants to watch, right? Is what
Right,
it is.
exactly. You're
Um,
learning
you know,
quick.
yeah, oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I like history. Anything history based, I love learning about. So that's kind of it. Like my like guilty pleasures, like Ancient Aliens, but who can't like that? Like that's like the most hilarious show
Dude,
like on the market, So
man, I tell you, Ancient Aliens gets me thinking, man, because I'm a spiritual, I'm a religious dude, and man, I'll tell you what, this shit gets me thinking. I'm just like, damn, some of that stuff makes too much sense. And then you realize it's nowadays media, and you have no idea what's true. And somebody's probably got a position, that's why they're saying that. But anyways, that's why we just do pure, unedited conversations like Agents Influence. Paul, I really appreciate you coming on, man. This has been really fun. I know the loyal listeners have really gotten a lot out of it because, I mean, really loyal listeners, when you think about it, we talked about the importance of insurance, why that's so important in our life and how we operate, why it's the greatest industry in the world with everything that we mentioned as far as compensation. I say the five truths of insurance are flexible schedule, financial freedom. You can become a community contributor, an empire builder, and a mentor. There's no five better things in the world because the first two, flexible schedule and financial freedom, that's all about you. But community builder, empire, a community contributor, empire builder, and a mentor, that's all about helping other people. And notice there's 3 verse 2. So we should help more than we should try to help ourselves. But education ourselves is important. And that's why we appreciate you listening here at Agents Influence. I do what I do because I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Cass. He's Paul. We're out.